There's a specific kind of dread that shows up in your chest before anything bad has even happened. A message lands on your screen. Hey, quick call. And something in you drops, not because you're afraid of the person, not because you did anything wrong. Your whole body just registers it as a threat, the same way other people register a fire alarm. Or you're standing in an elevator with a coworker and the silence starts to press on the air, and you know the weather comment is coming, and you would honestly rather take the stairs for the rest of your life. Or someone leans over your shoulder while you're working and just watches, and suddenly your hands forget how to type. If you hate doing these things, you've probably spent years being told what that means about you. You're difficult. You're antisocial. You're not a team player. You're lazy. You've probably even said those words to yourself. But here's what almost everyone gets wrong. These aversions are not character flaws. They're not attitude problems you need to fix. Every single one of them is a signature, a place where your brain's actual architecture is leaking through into daily life. Your brain works differently. And the things you hate doing are exactly where that difference shows itself. Today we're going to break down 6 things that people with differently wired brains almost universally hate, and the real neuroscience and psychology behind each one. Not so you can fix yourself, but so you can finally read the signals correctly. Welcome back to PsychToons. Let's get started. Here's the frame you need before we go through the list. Most people assume the brain is standard issue hardware, and that anyone who reacts differently to normal situations is malfunctioning. But research keeps finding the opposite. Brains vary in measurable, physical ways. In how they filter sound, how they allocate attention, how hard they resist control, how much stimulation they need just to feel okay. Neuroscientists at Northwestern University even found these differences showing up in brain responses just 50 milliseconds after a sound reaches your ears. Faster than conscious thought, completely involuntary. Think of your brain as an instrument tuned to a different frequency. When the world plays a note that's off your tuning, you don't just dislike it. You feel it as friction, as static, as something genuinely wrong. That's not oversensitivity. That's your tuning reporting the truth. So let's go through the 6 notes that clash the hardest. Number 1, you hate small talk. The weather, the traffic. How was your weekend? Asked by someone who has already stopped listening. For most people, this is social lubricant. For you, it's a strange kind of suffering. You stand there performing a script, and the whole time a voice in your head is asking, why are we doing this? Psychologist Matthias Mehl at the University of Arizona ran a study where participants wore recording devices that captured snippets of their real daily conversations. When he measured their well-being, a clear pattern showed up. The happiest people were the ones having the most substantive conversations. Real exchanges about ideas, feelings, life. Small talk itself wasn't the villain. It just wasn't doing anything. It's empty calories for the mind. And that's exactly why you hate it. Your brain runs on substance. When a conversation carries no actual information, no genuine connection, no idea worth turning over, your mind registers the exchange as cost without payoff. You're burning social energy and receiving nothing back. Other people don't notice the emptiness. You can't not notice it. The cost is that people read your discomfort as coldness, when the truth is you're not avoiding people. You're avoiding conversations where nobody is actually in the room. Number 2, you hate being watched while you work. You can do the task perfectly. You've done it 1,000 times. But the moment someone stands behind you and observes, a boss, a colleague, even someone friendly, your competence evaporates. You mistype your own password. You forget the next step of something you could do in your sleep. Psychology has known about this for decades. It's called social facilitation, first mapped by researcher Robert Zajonc, and it has a twist most people never hear. An audience makes people perform better, but only on simple, automatic tasks. On complex tasks, tasks that require working memory and deep focus, an audience does the opposite. It degrades performance. The awareness of being evaluated eats the very mental bandwidth the task needs. So, follow the logic. If being watched wrecks your performance, that's evidence your work lives in the complex category. That what you do actually demands your full cognitive machinery. People whose work is shallow don't feel the audience. You feel it because there's something real to interrupt. The cost is brutal, though. The moments when you most need to demonstrate your ability are exactly the moments your ability goes offline. You're at your best when no one is watching, and the world mostly judges you when they are. Number 3, you hate background noise. The coworker's keyboard, the television nobody is watching, music leaking from someone's headphones. Other people seem to just not hear it. You can't understand how. To you, it's not background, it's foreground. It's in the room with you, sitting on your chest. This is the one with the most striking science behind it. That Northwestern study I mentioned, led by researcher Darya Zabelina, measured something called sensory gating, the brain's automatic ability to filter out irrelevant sounds before they reach conscious awareness. Most brains have a working gate, but the study found that people with real-world creative achievement had leaky gates. Their brains physically let more of the world in involuntarily within that first 50 milliseconds. And history agrees. Proust lined his bedroom with cork to block sound. Kafka said he needed solitude like a dead man. Darwin and Chekhov complained bitterly about noise. The exact sensitivity that tortured them fed the same open channel that made their work possible. So when noise drives you out of a room, understand what's actually happening. Your filter isn't broken. It's open. The same leak that lets in the chaos also lets in the connections other people's brains screen out before they ever become ideas. You pay for your best thoughts with your worst afternoons. Number 4. You hate being told what to do. Here's the strange part. It doesn't even matter if the instruction is good. Someone tells you to do something you were already planning to do, and suddenly you don't want to do it anymore. The desire physically drains out of the task the moment it becomes an order. In 1966, psychologist Jack Brehm named this psychological reactance. When your brain perceives that a freedom is being taken away, even a small one, even the freedom to choose the order of your own tasks, it triggers a motivational state whose entire purpose is to reclaim that freedom. It's an autonomy alarm, and in some brains that alarm is wired loud. You're not defiant for the sake of drama. Your system genuinely processes external control as a threat the way other systems process danger. But this is the one where you have to be honest with yourself, because this wiring has a blade on both ends. That alarm cannot tell the difference between a controlling boss and a doctor giving you advice that could save your life. It fires either way. And if you've ever rejected a good idea purely because you didn't come up with it, ignored a correct warning purely because of the tone it arrived in, or blown up an opportunity just to prove no one owns you, that wasn't independence. That was the alarm running you. The tuning is real, but an instrument that refuses every hand that touches it eventually just goes unplayed. The freedom you're protecting is only worth something if you're actually steering. Number 5. You hate mindless, repetitive tasks. Data entry, forms, meetings that could have been emails, about emails that never needed to exist. Other people call this stuff boring but tolerable. For you, it's closer to physical pain. 20 minutes into busy work, and you feel your mind clawing at the walls. Psychologists Zajonc, Cacioppo and Richard Petty identified a trait called need for cognition, a stable, measurable difference in how much a brain needs to think. People high in this trait don't just enjoy mental effort, they require it. Their baseline is different. A task that gives the mind nothing to chew on doesn't feel neutral to them. It feels like deprivation, the mental equivalent of holding your breath. That's why just get through it advice has never worked on you. You're not weak-willed, you're underfueled. A high-performance engine idling in a parking lot doesn't feel rested. It runs rough. The cost is that the modern world is absolutely filled with idle time, and you've probably spent years interpreting your suffering in it as some personal failure of discipline when it was actually hunger. Number 6. You hate phone calls. You'll write a thoughtful message. You'll happily talk face-to-face. But a ringing phone triggers something close to an alarm, and you should just call them feels like being told to walk a tightrope for no reason. Here's what's mechanically happening. Human communication runs on 2 channels at once. Words, and everything underneath the words, facial expression, eye contact, posture, timing, the 100 tiny signals your brain reads automatically. A phone call strips out that entire second channel and demands real-time performance anyway. No face to read, no pause allowed, no time to compose. If your brain is the kind that processes deeply, that reads the underneath channel more than most people do, then a phone call blinds your best instrument and then asks it to perform live. Of course you hate it. You're being asked to navigate by sonar with the sonar switched off. Texting isn't cowardice for a brain like yours. It's choosing the channel where your depth actually works. So there they are. 6 aversions, and notice the pattern underneath all of them, because this is the part that matters more than any single item on the list. Every one of these things you hate because your brain is doing more, not less. More filtering that refuses to filter, more need for meaning, more sensitivity to autonomy, more depth of processing. The friction in your daily life is not evidence of deficiency. It's the drag created by machinery running at a higher resolution than the environment was built for. And here is the quiet cost you've probably been paying for years without naming it. You took the world's word for it. Every eye roll at your noise complaints, every just pick up the phone, every performance review that called you difficult, you filed those away as verdicts about your character. You built an entire self-image out of other people's confusion about your wiring. That's the real damage, not the aversions themselves. The story you were handed about them. I'm not going to end this by teaching you how to tolerate small talk or love your open plan office. That's not what this video is for. The point is simpler and bigger than that. An instrument tuned differently isn't broken, but it will sound broken every single time it's forced to play in the wrong ensemble. The question was never how do I fix these reactions? The question is what are these reactions telling me about where I belong, about the rooms, the work, and the people that fit the way this brain actually runs? Because everyone is walking around with wiring they never chose, reacting to a world that was never calibrated to them. Most people just never get the manual. Today you got 6 pages of yours. So tell me, out of these 6, which one do you hate the most? Which one made you feel caught? Drop the number in the comments. And subscribe to PsychToons so we can keep decoding the hidden corners of the mind together. Thank you for being here. Goodbye and see you next time.